Croeso, and welcome to Aberdare Park Primary's presentation on how we developed our school level curriculum by implementing the backward design model and how we have mapped progression across the learning trajectory. I'm Kate Stewart, Leader of Learning and Teaching at Aberdare Park, and on behalf of Miss Jo Evans, our Head Teacher, Mrs Kelly Wilcox, our Deputy Head Teacher, our staff, our community and all of our learners, I'll be sharing our journey towards 2022. A little bit of context to our school. We have 314 pupils on roll with approximately 33% free school meals and 5% ALN. Our school is set in the Druckennon area of Aberdare, and just across the road we have the beautiful Aberdare Park. I'd like to pose a question to you all that will frame the focus for this presentation. Feel free to record your answers down on a piece of paper. You've been given your new exciting topic of chocolate everywhere for Year 3. How would you plan this topic? Having a look at the two different types of questions here, which thought process did your mind automatically go to? How many of us thought, "Ooh, rainforest, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, melting chocolate, designing a new chocolate bar. Look at all the fun things we can do." Or how many of us truly took a step back and thought, what knowledge, skills and experiences do my children need to gain within this unit of learning? What will be that intended learning? How will I know that my children have learnt and understood this, rather than just it being taught? What prerequisite knowledge will my learners need to have? And then lastly, what activities can I plan to ensure the learners achieve the intended learning? Choosing activities and topics randomly without the focus on the learning is more common than we realise, despite when seeing these two different approaches in front of us. What we should do, it seems more obvious. When we raised this with our staff and other schools through the collaboration process, it was a light bulb moment for many of us. Through our curriculum design evaluation, this whole process sparked our reading and research surrounding Understanding by Design, a book written by Jay McTighe and Grant Wiggins, which I'll come on to a little bit later. At the start of our curriculum journey, we really began exploring what were the things we were doing well. What were they? We didn't want to throw the baby out of the bathwater. We wanted to keep the good things we knew we had as a school. After engaging in curriculum research and developing our understanding of effective curriculum design, we noticed that we had passionate staff who want to succeed and do well. We have wonderful pupils who want to learn and develop a passion for learning. We have a trusting SLT who opened up collaboration and opportunities for teacher voice, pupil voice and community voice. We have good areas of the curriculum that we didn't want to lose. And we had a vision for our curriculum. But with every evaluation, we were also looking for areas that we could develop. We noticed our curriculum was very activity focused. Many of our staff knew that the fun activities we wanted to teach, but we really had to think about, was the intended learning at the heart of our curriculum? We were very content driven, the curriculum was overloaded, and sometimes it was a case of just getting through the curriculum. Sometimes we were doing fun topics, but there was limited cohesion or intentional sequencing. And note the emphasis on the word doing. Sometimes progression was blurred. We were seeing some things may be taught in different year groups. And sometimes we had too many different schemes of work, which meant the learning became disjointed. So what do we do about this? We found that we were quick at identifying what we wanted to do, but it was really, really important for us now to consider why we are teaching something. Beyond the reason of, well, we've always done this topic, or this topic is fun. We needed to consider how we taught, how we knew the learners were achieving, because we wanted the taught curriculum to become the learnt curriculum. We used the Simon Sinek Golden Circle approach. It's placing the why at the heart. Why are we here? Why is the curriculum important for our students? Why are the four purposes integral to our learners and their skills and knowledge development? How will we achieve the why? How will we support our learners in realising the four purposes? How will we know our learners have achieved the intended learning? How will we teach our learners? What? What do our learners need to achieve this? What will we teach them? What experiences do they need? What activities will we plan to ensure that they are achieving the intended learning? So that what, the activity heavy focus, comes last. We always focus on the why first, then the how, and then the what. So bringing in the backwards design model, and it has come from this book mentioned earlier, Understanding by Design. We start first by identifying the intended outcomes. What do children need to know, do and experience in each statement of what matters to realise the four purposes? Just because we've taught it, does it mean learners understand it, can make meaning and apply it? So then it becomes the next step is determining the acceptable evidence. What types of assessment opportunities will we plan to use to assess whether the learners have achieved the intended learning? This can be through rich tasks, low stakes quizzes, exit tickets, a variety of different assessment strategies. And then finally, the third step is the choosing of the activities and the learning experiences that will support us in ensuring the intended learning can be realised by the children. This thought process was something we hadn't really considered before reading this book. Backwards design seems common sense, yet when we first apply it, we find that it feels unnatural. Working this way for our school felt awkward, and it was very time consuming until we got the hang of it, but the effort was worth it. It's like a software, a set of tools for making the learning time more productive. Everything we do when planning our big questions, our medium and short-term plans, always relate back to these three pillars of backwards design. Why are we doing this? And of course, we still find ourselves thinking of activities occasionally, but we're all confident to really challenge that thinking. For example, recently our staff have planned a Jubilee week. And rather than picking out fun activities, our staff themselves held small discussions to consider progression for all of our learners, thinking about what was important for our children to know, do and experience about the Jubilee. How can we ensure these opportunities are progressive? And of course, our learners still have enjoyable experiences, because we utilise the Jubilee as a learning experience too. So now that we had a renewed focus on the intended learning, we now needed to know what the intended learning was that we needed. So we explored cognitive science and understanding how children learn. We wanted to ensure our learners had opportunities to build upon their learning, for their learning to go into the long-term memory, and for it not only to be acquired but also understood and applied. We know that when we learn new facts and knowledge, we build schemas in our brain. So we really knew that we had to have a conceptual framework within our curriculum. The core part of what needed to be taught needs to be planned intentionally. Not everything, but the core knowledge, skills and experiences that are sequential and support schema building. If we are going to be teaching about life cycles, well, what would the prerequisite knowledge be that our learners should know? Do we assume the children already know this because it should have been taught previously? How many times have we just continued to teach our specific year group knowledge and skills just because that's what we've had to cover? Do we purposely plan to assess that prior knowledge and what the children already know? To overcome this as a school, we focus heavily on developing retrieval practice, and this has been an excellent tool to help us identify gaps in learners' knowledge and allow us to build upon it. Here are some questions that we asked ourselves and our staff throughout the design process. So, the mapping of progression. We needed to start designing our school level curriculum using what we had learned and understood about cognitive science and schema building. So we started with those statements of what matters. We really unpicked them because they can seem like a lot of words. So we questioned, what does it mean? What do our learners need to know, do and experience within each statement of what matters? How does the statement contribute to the four purposes? Why is it important for our learners? What does it mean for our learners at Aberdare Park? We identified the concepts that are clear throughout them. For example, in Statement of What Matters 3 in Science and Technology, living things, The concept of living things, of ecosystems, of sustainability, they come through. So it's really considering what that means for the learners of our school. Moving on to the descriptions of learning, we have really used these to help us understand the pace of progression. What do these descriptions mean? What do they represent? So we identified the strand of interrelationships for this example to help us link the related knowledge, skills and experiences, and to really help us understand what these descriptions really represent and entail and how they progress along the continuum. You can see we were very visual, highlighting key vocabulary and phrases to help direct our thinking. Next came the nitty-gritty part, the content. We really wanted our curriculum to be explicit, with a progression of knowledge, skills and experiences across the trajectory. Starting with the end in mind, so Year 6, and working backwards, we identified what knowledge, skills and experiences our learners would need by the end of each progression step for each thread, and considered how we will get learners there. The knowledge, skills and experiences are progressive as you move across the row, from progression step 1 to 3, and down each column, which shows how a learner progresses within the progression step. When selecting the content, it was important to question why. What we didn't say was, well, shadows have always been taught in Year 2, so we're going to keep it there. We always question the why. Why is this piece of knowledge or these skills or this experience important for our learners at Aberdare Park Primary School? For example, Aberdare is a mining town, so learning about the mining industry was incredibly important to help our learners develop a sense of Cynefin. When exploring our local area, we realised that our school was built for the 1848 Education Act, where children were no longer allowed to work down the mines and had to start attending school. Now, what better why would there be to study the Victorian era and the mining than this? Our learners are directly impacted by this change in history for Aberdare. We also identified second-order concepts within the strands, so consequences, change, cause and effect and responsibility, which have been taken from the Design a New Curriculum page on Hub. We know these are humanity-specific concepts, but also allow us for a lot of connections to be made within and across the AOLEs. Our staff wanted and needed a prescriptive framework to begin, and it truly helps us know that learners are progressing and how they're progressing, and helps develop that shared understanding of progression. We want to ensure our learners have a curriculum that allows them to intentionally develop a schema, build upon their prior knowledge and skills, and make connections between what they already know and what they can do with their learning. This has all been done with staff and not to them. We completed the process for every one of the 27 statements of what matters. When we had a good overview of what we wanted the children to know, do and experience, we could then group this together into multidisciplinary units of learning. What we have not done is stick to our old topics and shoehorn in the curriculum for Wales. We've created big questions by grouping similar or complementary knowledge, skills and experiences within AOLEs and across AOLEs to provide a holistic learning experience for our children. For example, you can see here how the concepts of empire and civilization and Cynefin are developed through some of our big questions. There are further underlying concepts, of course, but to show a simple view of how each concept has opportunities to deepen through different contexts, AOLEs, allowing learners to make connections and intentionally build upon their learning. However, there are some key knowledge, skills and experiences that do have to be taught discreetly. To provide a cohesive curriculum for our learners across the trajectory, cluster working is paramount. We started our cluster working by sharing what each other were doing. We could see different approaches to curriculum and know what is going on across the cluster as a starting point. Cluster working has been facilitated by CSC to help develop a shared understanding of progression for all schools. Our AOLE teams are developing and building networks, developing their expertise in their area, and now moving into developing shared concepts, knowledge and skills that all of our learners need to have developed before transitioning into secondary, so that the trajectory can be continued and all learning throughout the 3 to 16 journey is purposeful, sequential and is built upon. So that is it from us. So a huge diolch yn fawr iawn for listening. Thank you for listening to how our school developed the progression map of knowledge, skills and experiences by following the backwards design model. We welcome any questions or discussions about our curriculum and hope that we can provoke some thought processes regarding your own curriculum design. Diolch yn fawr.